Alright, well, welcome. So, today we're going to take a look at a new player intro to industrial gameplay, in particular mining. Another one will cover maybe salvage, maybe some cargo, but for right now we're going to focus on starter and mining. So, whether it's you be new to the game or just new to mining, whatever the case may be. So, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the two ships that you would actually start out mining with. One is actually you can get in a starter pack or a standalone. That's the Drake Golem. And the other one will actually be the Prospector, which you cannot get as a starter, and it's significantly more. So just to start out right off the bat, we'll start with the mining starter pack here. As you can see, $75. It does actually come with the digital download, 6-month insurance, self-land hangar, and 10,000 AUEC. So that's what you would start with. So if you had no ships whatsoever and you grab this package, you now have 10,000 credits to start with. If you use the code on my page to sign up for Star Citizen, that'll give you an extra 5. So automatically you're starting out with 15,000. So a little bit there. Now, if you're already playing Star Citizen, which means you've already got other ships or even a starter pack, you can buy another starter pack if that's what you want to do and get the extra money. Or we can go with a standalone ship, in this case the Golem, for $60. So it's a little bit cheaper than the package, but again, it only comes with the Golem and nothing else. You get insurance with it for 6 months. You can actually do an upgrade from something else if you have a ship, like a cheaper starter pack. Let's just say, for instance, you have an Aurora. Let me see here. Let's say you have the Aurora MR. That's one of the starter packs. That one's only $30. So if we take the Golem, now you're looking at just a $30 increase. So for an additional $30, you can buy the CCU or the upgrade to it. You can apply that to your starter pack, and now you have a Golem starter pack. The other option will be so that's the Golem itself. The other option for a mining ship would be the Prospector, and this is not usually what I recommend for somebody starting out anymore because, quite frankly, the Golem is a lot cheaper. You're talking $60 compared to $155. And the only thing you lose is the living quarters. So keep that in mind. You lose the living quarters. I take that back. You actually lose the ability to change the mining head as well. However, the mining head that's in the Golem is actually the equivalent of one of the more powerful ones that you can get for the Prospector and the Helix. And you actually have 2 module slots compared to the one that you get in the starter ship with the Prospector. So that's the two options for starting out mining. Obviously, not everybody wants to put that kind of money in to start out, especially if you're new to the game. So, with that being said, if you're just starting out and you know you for sure you want to do industrial gameplay, you always want to have a way to make money besides, running around doing missions and so forth. The Golem's a good way to go. So with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to take out the Golem today in the stock variant, just like that. So we're going to take the Drake Golem out. And we're going to do a little bit of mining on Selin. It's close to Crusader or Orison, so that's why we're going to go there. So, this will just give you an idea of what you can do with it. It'll obviously take a little practice, but it will give you a good way to start making money right off the bat. That's can be better than trying to do missions that you maybe don't have the time for, so forth, or maybe you just enjoy it. It's kind of hit or miss. If you played Elite Dangerous and you like the mining in that, it's hit or miss. You may like this mining, you may not. It just varies. I did not particularly care for the mining in Elite Dangerous, but I like the mining in Star Citizen. So I've heard other people with the opposite opinion. So obviously, if you're just starting out with the Golem, you won't have this long run. So the Prospector, in comparison, actually has a ladder you climb up into. It's got living quarters, a bed to sleep in, and so forth. But it actually has the same. Starting out, it has the same amount of space to store ore for mining. You can't upgrade the Prospector. You cannot upgrade the Golem. But as a starter ship, it really can't be beat. And eventually, you can upgrade and get another ship that can carry the Golem plus extra bags. That'll give you even more capacity. Alright. So what I usually do is I like to put all the pips I can into engines and the shield. Guns don't really matter because, let's face it, you're really not going to fight your way out of anything with the Golem. I mean, you might if it's just an NPC, but if any players come across you with fighters, you're probably not getting away and you're probably not fighting your way out of it. Alright, so control-wise, they're showing on the bottom right if you haven't turned off the hints. In order to call for getting out of the hangar, you can do it one of two ways. You can either go to hit F1 and go to comms, or hit 11 and that'll bring comms up. You can go to friends and you can click on this for landing services and that'll actually do it. Or you can set a button for it, which is what I've done. That actually calls for the hangar to opening. When you come back, you can use the same button to call for a hangar to land. Now, I should preface this with, well, obviously we're going to go mining, we're going to pick up ore, and when we come back, we're going to go actually to a mining station instead. In this case, we're going to go to Crew L1 because it's the closest one. And that's where we'll refine the ore. So, unfortunately, this time we just happen to have a queue, so we got to wait for the queue. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes you get out right away, sometimes you have a little bit of a wait. Just depends on how busy the servers are that day. Alright, so when you first take off, you're going to be in SCM. I'll explain some of this while we're waiting. You'll be in SCM when you first start. SCM is basically like your normal cruising mode. And then you have nav mode as well. When you're in SCM mode, you actually have guns, shields, so forth. But you're maxed out whatever the max SCM speed is for the ship. In nav mode, you lose the shields, but you become considerably faster. You also cannot shoot when you're in nav mode. Alright, so we're going to go out. We're going to go ahead and just take off and go straight up. Switch into nav mode. For me, I have it set to my joystick, but if you don't, then it's normally just B on the keyboard. We'll switch into nav mode. Make sure you put your landing gear up. Initially, your landing gear will be set that you can only go so fast with it on. However, if you go into the settings, you can change that if you don't like that. You can use Alt and C. Will actually set cruise mode so you don't have to hold the button down or hold your joystick back to fly. Just remember to take it off if you need to slow down or stop. While we're doing that, we'll bring up the nav map by hitting F2. We'll type in Selin. We'll click on it. And then we'll click the button down here that says Route. That will actually give us a path there that we can jump to. Now, once you get out of atmosphere and it says online like that, then you can actually, I would usually take cruise off, slow down a little bit, and then I would actually go ahead and wait for the jump here. The bar on the left will climb as soon as it's maxed out. It changes that color like that. Then you can hit and hold your left mouse button, hit your left mouse button, or whatever button you set to control your quantum jump. Now, approaching the planet, I usually try to find an OM. In this case, I'm going to jump to OM1. OM are the markers, orbital markers, 1 through 6. You have 1 at the North Pole, 6 at the South Pole, and 2, 3, 4, and 5 are around the equators. So we'll go ahead and jump to there. And then we will actually come back. And we'll find a nice empty area to come down to. Let's go for, like, say, right around there. That should give us a little bit of mountains, near the mountains, and so forth. So, approaching the planet, you can do one of two ways. You can either go down to the planet like normal, just fly and hold it, or you can even, I would not jump to a location on the planet, because if you're within about 20 kilometers of any of those locations, more than likely you're going to be seen. If you look up in the top left corner here on that HUD where it shows the 20.5K, 37.6K, and the other one there, like if I actually go and I switch to SCM mode, you can see that changes. So CS is cross section, IR is your infrared, and EM is basically your emissions. You'll see they changed when I went to SCM mode. That's going to be the distance that somebody can see you at. So in this case, the left one there, EM, or IR, will be 20.5 kilometers. People will be able to see you if they ping or on radar. 12.6 for EM, and then that one is just kind of messed up. I've never seen it that high before, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. So that's not really a big factor, but the two on the left are the biggest ones you're concerned with. All right, so we'll go back to nav mode here because we want to be able to fly faster. I'll pick a location that's kind of away from everything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my speed to the fastest I can go. Once my speed maxes out, I'm going to hit Alt-C to set cruise control. And then I'm going to actually hit C, which is going to put me in decoupled mode. If the menu on the right wasn't in the way, you could see that decoupled, actually, the light for it went out. It was actually right next to that one that's orange on the side there in the bottom right corner. So now what we're going to do is we're going to cruise towards the planet at our maximum speed. We always did this back in the past because this actually saved fuel or reduced the amount of fuel you used. If you look on the top left here, you'll see the H2 or hydrogen fuel and the quantum fuel. Quantum is what you're using in nav mode to jump places between like different systems, different planets, so forth. Hydrogen fuel is what you're going to use when you're flying normally and you're not in quantum. So you'll need to keep an eye on both of those. What we're going to do is we're going to fly down to the planet here. We're going to keep an eye on the altitude when it pops up. Because as soon as the altitude pops up, we're going to go back into coupled mode. We're going to go ahead and take cruise off. And then we're going to pop out of nav mode into SCM. That will automatically slow us down, prevent us from crashing. But you have to do it in that order. So, coupled, take cruise off, change to SCM. If you don't do this right, you end up base planing into the planet. Not the best way to go. And you can do it sooner if you want. So we go that, and that. And you see here we come down and we're sitting at roughly about, probably 6K. Coupled is back on. And we're down to where we should be. So we're sitting at about 5K above the surface right now. Now, when I'm going down, I will usually go ahead and ping by hitting tab. Or if you have a button set up for it specifically for pinging, that will actually show you these markers. These markers are deposits, typically. You can actually see markers like this on other planets where they have animals and stuff like that too, and that's what they'll be. But in this case, on the moon right here, where there's not really going to be anything, you'll get this. Alright, so we've got a rock down here. Technically, you could try to scan this. You would do that by hitting B, as in Victor. Roll your scroll wheel up on your mouse so that that lower part of the bar is highlighted. and then you find what button it is for you for that and hold it down, and technically that will actually scan. Now if you'll see here, it basically showed me that it's an obsidian deposit, but it's not giving me anything else. Instability is 33.36. Power transfer resistance is 0.32. So, but it's not actually telling me what it is. That's kind of a bug right now where it's not working properly. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually, you can keep scanning, pinging as much as you need to see where it's at. We will actually go into M, or hit M for mining mode. And that will actually take us down here where we can actually see what it is. In this case, it's beryl and aluminum. You could mine this if you wanted to, if you just wanted to get your feet wet and get some mining done. But we're not going to. What we're going to do is we're going to actually continue looking. So we're going to go over here to this one. Keep in mind, anything that's over 5K is likely a rock that you can mine with a golem or a prospector. If it doesn't show up until it's under 5K, then it's probably more for rock mining or geo mining. Which means it's going to be the smaller gems. So let's see what we've got here. So this time we've got Borace, which is decent, but it's 32K rock. Now, Borace is not a top tier. When I say top tier, what I'm referring to is obviously Quantanium is the biggest thing we want. You get about 25 grand or 20 something grand a pop per SCU. After that, you have Bexylite, Terranite, and gold. And then below that will be like Borace and Laranite and some of the other ones. We want the top three and Quantanium. Those are what we want. Now, there may come a time where you actually want other stuff, but for now, that's where we're at. So we'll keep looking. Alright, so make sure you don't fly into any mountains. And if the markers disappear, just go ahead and hit the ping again. Again, it's either tab or whatever button you changed it to. Alright, so here we go. Now we got a couple of rocks. Looks like we got 5 of them. So surely we'll be able to find something here. This is what we want. We want to find patches of rocks that are more than one. Alright, let's see what we got here. So see how that's purple in the outline? That means I can automatically pick this rock up. That's Bexylite, 472. I'm going to go ahead and show you this just so you know. So in order to actually change from fracture mode to extraction mode, which is what you have to do to be able to pick up the ore, you would actually hold your left alt button and your left mouse button, click it. That'll change you to extraction mode. Then you get that little graph on the left here where it says optimal max. You want to get that down to where you're in the green. And then you can actually just click the button, click your mouse button to start it, or your trigger on your joystick, however you've got it set up. It'll usually show you on the bottom right there what you need to use. Alright, so that's picking up rocks that are already ready to be picked up. We call them freebies. Laranite I'm not going to worry too much about, although that's not bad. But what you really want is to be able to make money. So I'm going to go back to fracture mode. And then I'm going to take a look at what these other rocks are. If you look in the bottom right corner, you'll see the cargo, 3.72 of 32 SCU. 3.72 is how much I have in the bags right now, the ore pods. 32 is how much I can hold. And below that, it'll actually give you a breakdown. Obviously, the biggest thing you're looking for is to try to maximize the amount of tier 1 ores that are in your bag compared to secondary or tertiary ores or inert materials. So this rock is going to be aluminum. Don't want that. There will come a time where you'll need that, but that ain't right now. Let's see what we got here. Alright, and that's going to be, looks like a 16K rock Terranite. Well, I mean, that meets the requirements for the ore type we want, but we might not be able to break that. What's this other one? That one's Terranite at 7,600. Alright, let's go ahead and try to crack this 16K rock. Probably not going to be able to. but it's worth a shot. Alright, so the way we do this is you use your fire toggle on the bottom right there. It'll show you what it is. In my case, it's the trigger on my joystick. And then you'll actually have a laser power. For me, it's the Z-axis. I believe it is... Yep, it's left alt and the scroll wheel. Normally, I'm going to go ahead and use my joystick. And then to the left of that, where it says 100% laser, that bar right there, if you're actually getting any power into the rock, it will actually start to fill up until it gets to that charge area that's about halfway up. So we're probably not going to get very far with this one. But we'll go over here to this other rock, and I'll show you how it looks when you're actually breaking it, because we'll be able to break this one. Alright. So we'll go ahead and get within that green zone, optimal. Look for sparks like that. That means you're making a good hit on the rock. And then you'll increase your laser power. And when you're just starting out, what I would do is I would increase the laser power until you start filling the bar, until it's steadily climbing. I wouldn't go too crazy. You could drive it faster. And when you get used to doing it, that's great. But until then, I wouldn't do that. I would just let it climb steadily as you get used to doing it until it gets into the charge zone. And then try to maintain it within the bottom half of that charge area. If it goes up into the red, turn your laser off, back off, do something. Because what's going to happen is if it charges all the way up while it's in the red like that, it's going to blow the rock up. Alright, so we'll go ahead and keep running here. You also see, according to this rock will have 44.84 SCU of composition, which means you have a maximum possible of 48 SCU. Now, we only have 32 SCU, but again, realistically, it's probably not going to give us that much anyway. So once you've actually cracked the rock, again, hit left alt and your mouse, change to extraction mode. So that's a 46% Terranite. I would actually look at all your rocks that you broke first, so you can try to take the best mixes. There's 51%, so that's a little better. 42. Let's see what else we got here. 100% aluminum, we don't need that. Another 100% aluminum. So this actually looks like a pretty good rock. Pretty good break here. There's 69%. So we'll go ahead and grab that one, and maybe there'll be something else underneath it as well. So we'll go ahead and, again, fire toggle either your left mouse button in this case, or in my case, the trigger on my joystick. Then you can see it filling up. You can see over there on the side where it's showing it. Alright, and you can move around too if you need to, just in case, to make sure you've actually gotten all the rocks in to look at them. So like this one here we hadn't seen before. We didn't get a reading on it, so we'll go ahead and get a reading on it. That's another 32%. So, and if you look at this, this is a 2,000 mass chunk at 42%. So we definitely want that one, because that's going to give us pretty good. Yep, that one's going to need broke. And that will sometimes happen when you break rock. Sometimes you have to break it, do a second, what they call a secondary break. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start up the laser, change back to fracture mode again, left alt and the left mouse button. We'll go ahead and turn the laser on. And then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to slowly increase our power until we start to charge. I'm going to drive it a little faster just because I'm used to doing this. So, and then once we're up in this charge zone, we're going to back off. There we go. Now we're going to try to hold it in that bottom half of that bar to protect ourselves so we don't overcharge it. Sometimes you'll have to drop the power. That's fine. Now, the Golem does take a little while to charge up the rocks. That's one of the minuses to the laser it comes with, the mining laser. You can offset that with modules and gadgets and so forth like that. But we're mining without any gadgets, without any modules, because when you first start out, this is what you'll start with, just a straight Golem with nothing else. Alright, so now that we broke the rock, now we'll actually take a look and see. So we got 49% Terranite. Let's see. 50%. Notice that was purple when I first went on it, so 25%. Alright, so we'll go ahead and grab this. It's not a very big chunk. We'll grab this one over here. Why is it not pulling it? Grab some other rocks here. So what else we got here? That's aluminum. Aluminum. That's 32%. There's 50. We'll take that one. Yeah, 46. Oh, because I'm outside of my optimal zone. That's why. That's why it wasn't picking it up. That's a change they just made recently. It used to be even if you weren't in the optimal zone, you could still mine, you could still pick up. In the last patch or so, I think 4.1, they actually made it so basically you have to be within that optimal zone or the max range. Alright, so here we go. What is this one here? Ooh, that's 42. We'll take that. Got to get within range. There you go. That one's 25. What's this one here? All right, 43. We'll go after that too. Notice that's just a little bit of that sticking up. We're at 25 out of 32. I don't know that we're going to get much else from another rock. Oh, there's a 32%. We'll grab that. That's 900 mass. So we'll grab this one. And then if we have to, we'll grab that 20-something% just to make a full load. Alright. So let's grab this. I mean, you could you could be very picky if you want. I'm not going to. Alright. And it looks like that's going to be about it. We don't really need the aluminum, although you could grab the aluminum if you want. I'll go ahead and grab some just because we're going to max out the load here. Alright, so go ahead and what I would do is I would change it back to fracture mode. Take that off. Alright, then we're going to go ahead and get out of atmosphere. On selling, it's only about 2K. You'll see up here where it says spooling disabled in atmosphere in the center of the screen there. That'll change to, should change to online, I believe. When you get out of range. Just like that. Go ahead and hit F2. We'll go ahead and set our jump to crew L1. Get that orange line. If you don't get that orange line when you actually set your jump, it's very well possible that it's blocked. So you'll have to jump to something else first. The other thing to keep in mind, if you know there's pirate activity, you might try jumping somewhere else and then coming back to crew L1 or whatever your mining station is. That way you can't get pulled out of quantum and attacked. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and jump to the station now, and we're going to go ahead and get this done. And while we're doing this, I'll do a quick little overview on Regolith as well, just so you can get see how that works if you want to use it. And there are a number of different stations you can go to. Like if you start at Microtech, I would go to Mike L2 because they have more favorable refining for Bexolite and gold and Quantanium. There's actually a negative here for Bexolite and gold. I don't remember if there is one for Terranite or not. So when I'm going to the station, I usually stay in nav mode and I'll let it run until I get closer. Once I get a little bit closer to the station, then I'll switch to SCM and then I'll look for a hangar. The idea is to spend as little time out in space as possible, especially near stations and planets. So again, you can either go hit a left F11, go to comms, or you can use a button that you've set for the actual. I'm actually using boost right now. You can do that on yours. You'll need to figure out what you have it set to. I actually have mine set to my left joystick trigger instead of my right. That way I can use it when I'm in combat. Alright, and then of course you'll want to slow down when you get close to the hangar. But that was part of the reason we switched over to SCM, so we wouldn't be going as fast. Alright, then you want to go ahead and pull into the hangar here. Might be easier for you to put the landing gear down ahead of time just to reduce your speed. I'm not going to worry about that personally. Alright, then once you're in, hit N for your landing gear. If you want to, you can look outside your ship by hitting F4 and see that the landing gear is down. Make sure you try to park as close to the center as possible. Alright, so if you don't have Quantanium, what I would do is I would go ahead and hit F1, go into landing, and then I would repair and refuel. If you've taken any damage or wasted anything, so forth. And then you want to go ahead and make sure you shut your ship off, and then hold Y to get out of your seat, which in the Golem is pretty easy since you don't have to run through the ship. Alright, and then we want to go to the refinery. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and store our ship. So we'll go over here. We'll hit F to bring it up. We'll find our ship in the list here. Look for Drake Golem. We're going to store it. Apparently I have the other one here as well right now. I'm not sure why. Oh, I think because the one I'm using right now is actually the one that was in the C2. Okay. Alright. You want to go ahead and wait in here until the doors actually close, because remember, this is not a persistent hangar. So anything you leave in this hangar will be gone. And that can include ships sometimes if it decides to get screwy. So once it's closed and the ship is gone, we'll go ahead and call the elevator. We're going to go ahead and pick the refinery. Well, we're actually going to go to the lobby first, sorry. So we'll go to the lobby. And then once you get out of the lobby, you'll need to actually go and find the elevators that go through the station. In this particular case, at Crew L1, we follow this path here. When we see the hab, we turn left. There's a clinic on the left if you need it. And then the elevator's here to go through the station. So we're going to go ahead and go to the refinery. Don't worry about that trespassing on private property for the stations like this right now. That's a glitch right now that hopefully they're going to fix soon. Once you come out of the elevator, you want to go across this bridge or this area. And then we're going to go over here to... Now this lower doorway here is actually the store that you can go to. You can buy drinks in here. You can buy other stuff like mining modules, mining heads, gadgets, so forth, which we'll do in the next episode. Alright, so once we're actually here, so two things. You can refine your ore, which will actually net you more money, because refined ore is worth more. If, however, you're just starting out and you don't have much money, you can actually go over here to these terminals instead. And you can hit use, select your location. In this case, we're going to go here. And then you can actually see, so I would get 57,677 AUAC for this load. And they will actually buy everything, including inert materials and all. So, and apparently hydrogen fuel as well. But we're going to go over here, and I'm going to show you how to do this part. So you'll hit F to bring this up. Hit begin. You'll go in here. You'll select the Golem. That's not it. It's the other one. There we go. Hit set up work order. All right. So in here, you have various processes. The best processes that I'm aware of at the moment are either fair on exchange or Dinnick solventation. Fair on exchange is going to be significantly more, but it's about half the time. Dinnick solventation takes longer, but it's a lot less money. So just as an example, if I pick all the ore in here and I hit get quote, you'll see it's $5,429 credits and it's 26 hours. If I do fair on exchange for the same thing, it's going to be 10,859, but it's only going to be almost 9 hours. So big difference. If you're in a hurry for money, you can pay the extra money to get more money. I'm going to go with the next solventation just because I don't need it. We're going to go ahead and get quote. Now we're going to actually adjust a little bit here, and we're going to go to what we call regolith. So this is regolith. Regolith is used for mining. So you can go ahead and log in here. I'm going to use Discord to log in just because I've already set it up. You can do Google if that's what you want to do. You'll have to authorize it for Discord. All right. So we'll go to session dashboard. We'll create a new session. All right. And then you can actually go in here, do ship mining, and start a new work order. You can pick your refinery. You can actually pick your different ores, so forth. In this case, we have Terranite, but we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it the easy way. And you can actually pick your cell location as well normally. What we're going to do is we're going to actually import it from a capture. We're going to start screen share. And then we're going to pick the window we're going to pick is going to be Star Citizen. All right. You'll notice it automatically highlighted that order right there. So we're going to go ahead and go with that one. Whoops. Apparently, once we bring it back up, we're going to go with that one. You can adjust that box as needed. So we're going to get the Golem, set up the work order, the next solventation, pick your ores. Any ore that you do not pick when you actually do your refinery order is gone. You will lose it. It will no longer exist. All right. So then we're going to go over here. We can see we've got it selected. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. Then I'm just going to do a quick check. So we'll have to pick the refinery again. It's showing 5429, which is right. 1 day, 2 hours, 33 minutes. So that's right. And then the amount of ores we've got and so forth are all right. So we'll tell it to use that. All right. So then we're going to go back over here to our window in Star Citizen, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to confirm it because that only sits there for so long. All right, then back over here in regolith, we're going to go ahead and we're going to, so we've confirmed that, we're going to go with Orison to sell in our case, and then we're looking at all the time and everything, so everything's good. Hit save new order, and there it is. So with this one order that I did in the Golem, and you saw how quick it was, like what, half an hour or so, and it probably would have been less time if I wasn't talking. So we're looking at 129K AUEC gross and 124K after the refinery fee. So, I mean, for half an hour, we just made 120K easily. So I'm okay with that. That's not bad. All right. So now that we've actually got our work order here, you'll see we've got right here, we've got Bexolite, Terranite, aluminum, and keep in mind 100 in this column is equivalent to 1 SCU. So 1100 is 11 SCU. Down here, 1436, that's 1400, 14 SCU. So up here you can tell at Bexlite we have not even one SCU. Now, it's still going to give us a container with that. Probably a 1 SCU container, and it'll be separate. Now, if you go over here to the left, you can look on here and you see the yield and the different materials. So here we get a positive 2% when we're buying iron or corundum, 7%. Bexlite, we lose 6. Gold, we lose 6. Titanium, we lose 1. Laranite, we lose 8%. So you'll notice Terranite is not actually in this list. So this is actually, like, basically we just break even on, well, we don't break even. I mean, we get all of our Terranite that we did, but we don't get any kind of pluses to it. So now, with that being said, so now I've got the work order in here. It's refining. Then it's complete. What do I do now? You have 2 options. You can either pick a ship, like if you had a cargo ship here, you could actually pick a ship and actually deliver it to the ship to be able to take and sell somewhere. Or you could actually take and pick the station, and then it's going to actually deliver it to your inventory on the station. And then you can actually go to a cargo elevator and you can load it into there from there, into your cargo ship. So this allows you to actually, if you have a bigger ship, then you can actually go through and get a lot more loads before you actually run. So let's see, drink-wise, I recommend the Cruise Luxes. Grab 2 of them, put them in your backpack. I've done that here. You can see, even when they're empty, if you stack them, they become full. So just as an example, I'll take mine off, carry it. It was empty in there, and now it's full. That's a bug in the game. They haven't fixed it yet. You might as well take advantage of it. You only have to carry 2 bottles. So you buy the 2 bottles, or even find them on the ground. They just have to be the same type. You have to be able to stack them. All right. So let's go through some other stuff here real quick, since this is a beginner's tutorial. So here is the refinery shop. So we cannot replace our mining heads on the Golem. But if you could, this would be where you do it. On a Prospector, you can. Typically for the Prospector, I recommend the Hofstede. Still decent power, but it doesn't have any real bad negatives. Let's see. The Helix is the most powerful one. This is the equivalent of what we're using on the Golem, except we've got a few more negatives. But it still works very well, as you can see. All right, so a couple other things here. We've got mining modules. Once you actually have the money, I would recommend a Focus 3. This will actually increase the size of that charge window. You lose 5% of your power, but it gives you a 40% optimal charge window size. And that was that green area that we get the laser up into and we hold it there. That's your charge window. So the bigger that is, the easier it is to keep in there. Now, for the second module, you can either go with a Riger C3, which increases your power by 25%, but it decreases the charge window by -1%. So not a bad trade-off at all. The other option you can do is you can go with a Torrent, I think it is. They don't have it here, apparently. But there's a Torrent that actually charges faster. If I remember right, that's what it is. Now, they do have some other ones. So you have passive and active modules. These down here, the Focus, the FLTR, and the Riger, those are passive modules. So they always are there, they always on, they always work. These ones up at the top here, so for instance, like the Brant, the Foral, the Lifeline, the Rhyme, Stampede, these ones actually are what they call active modules. So the other ones are passive, these are active. What that means is you only have so many uses. But it does actually either increase your power, or like in this case, you get 135% mining laser power. Your extraction power is a little lower. There's actually a Surge, if I remember correctly, that does that as well. Although maybe it's a Stampede now, I don't remember. And then you've got some other ones. So they've all got different things. This one gives you a faster charge rate. This one gives you less resistance, but at a cost of power. So just various things you can do. Now gadgets, on the other hand, these are almost always beneficial. My personal favorite is the saber because it reduces resistance by 50%. And basically, we'll cover this in another one, but this is something where you would actually equip it just like you do, like your tractor beam and so forth in your hands, and then you hold your left mouse button when you're at the rock and you put it on, and then you have to make some adjustments to it. So it's not hard to use, just takes to get it used to. So I like the saber is probably the one I carry the most. The Bormax is good too. It gives you better laser instability, but it increases resistance and it gives you good cluster modifier. Cluster modifier means that it actually so it groups up more of the better ores together, it clusters them together so that you get better breaks. Wave shift is going to increase your charge window size. So if you do have, let's say for instance, you go out and get a Quantanium rock, but you have wave shift on you, then you can put that on the rock because a Quantanium will probably have a very small window with the Golem. And then I'll just make that charge zone wider. And then Optimax actually increases your resistance or decreases your resistance by 30 and actually increases the cluster of the ores that are in there by 60, but at a price of actually a smaller window. So that's why I said Saber is typically the best one. It gives you a little bit of instability, gives you a little bit better charge window size, and better resistance. So you lose like half the resistance, which you'll come to find out is a big deal when you're trying to go after bigger rocks like 10K or more. All right, so one final thing I want to cover before we're done here, and that is, okay, so now I've mined stuff, I've refined stuff, what do I do with it? I don't have a cargo ship that can carry that much. And yes, if you have something that does 4 SCU, like say a cutter, you can make a lot of trips with 4 SCU. But what happens when you're, what happens if you get boxes that are larger, like 8 SCU? Well, that's not going to fit in there. Well, that's where these rentals come in. So once you've actually gotten enough ore together, you can go in here and you can actually rent like a Cutlass Black that has, I believe it's like 40 something SCU of cargo capacity. That's easily one load from a prospector or a Golem in this case. So that'll work. If you actually go to the planets and do it, or the cargo ones, you can actually, if you find the rental terminals there in a cargo place. So for instance, Seraphim Station in Orison, Port Tressler, you go to the cargo deck and you can actually rent, I believe it's a Constellation Taurus, which actually haul 190 SCU. So there's different options out there. All right, so that is pretty much what we're going to go with today. We've covered basically just the very basics of mining with a Golem, just fresh out of the gate, no modules, no gadgets, no nothing. Just straight, I bought the ship, I took it out, I went mining. That's what we've gotten so far. We also covered regolith. We also covered, how to use that so you can actually track your stuff, because that'll actually, rather than having to get in game to see if your refinery orders are done, you can actually look at regolith and you can check that anywhere on the web. And that way you can see what orders you got coming up, just in case. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and call that a day. If you have any questions, any concerns, let me know. If there's something specific you would like to see, let me know that as well, and I'll see what I can do. Other than that, have a good day, and we'll see you next time.